All right. How do you define life? I've asked this question many a time. And unless you've heard it from me, most people don't know how to define life. They'll say breathing. That's not how you define life. That's a function of life. That's how you can live. That's not a definition. How you can, that, the opposite of death. That's not a definition. That's an antonym. How you define life. So life is the fusion of body and soul. The opposite of life, death, is the separation of body and soul. Hence, to live a good life is to have soulfulness infused into the soul and body together. That's a definition of life. So therefore, we say Alachaim, which I don't have right now, to life. What do we mean? That in everything that you do to live life, you have an infusion of soulfulness in a bodily activity. So, like wine, we make Kiddush on Shabbos holidays. That we're taking it something that can be used in a negative way, in a addictive substance, possibly addictive, whether wine or anything else, and we infuse it with soulfulness. We make Kiddush, we sanctify the day, we make the day holy. So that's the idea of to live life. Welcome to Tanya Today. We're coming to we have 3 chapters left to conclude the first part of Tanya, 53 chapters. We're in the 51st chapter, and we're bringing up an idea that we spoke about earlier, which is based on the title page. The title page of Tanya tells us, based on one verse in Deuteronomy, Devarim, Kikar v'adavar me'od, that this is very close to you. Your relationship with God, Torah mitzvahs, is very close to you. Beficha, in your mouth, v'lvavcha, in your heart, la'aseh to do. So our focus then on chapter 35, we quoted from the Zohar, from the Yanuka, that child prodigy, that spoke about oil, a metaphor of oil, a wick, and a flame. The flame is the presence of God that comes through the wick. The wick metaphorically is the body. And the oil is good deeds, mitzvahs, that are the fuel to bring the divine presence of God, as we spoke about. So in chapter 51, the Alter Rebbe is questioning the metaphor, because it's not usually the metaphor that we use for oil. Here, in chapter 35, the metaphor is for good deeds, but usually oil is a metaphor for chokhmah, for wisdom. Chokhmah is the first of the powers of the soul. It's the first of the divine attributes. we translate it as wisdom, but it doesn't really mean wisdom, right? It means the spark of ingenuity, the flash of intuition that comes from above, and it rises above everything else. It is the receptacle for the from in the divine order of things of the Ein Sof, and in this soul of the person, it's a receptacle for the entirety of the soul. So that's how we usually refer to oil as chokhmah, wisdom, right? Not good deeds. So there has to be a connection between them, and that's something we need to understand. So before we'll understand that, we need to understand another idea. And that is the concept of Shekhinah, divine presence, dwelling. And that divine presence was in the Kodesh Kodashim, in the Holy of Holies, in the times of the Holy Temple. Now, we also speak about the Shekhinah dwelling in other circumstance, right? But what does this mean? Isn't the whole world full of God's glory? So what does it mean that we're singling out a specific place, the Holy of Holies? We're singling out, you know, the Shekhinah. How do we understand that? So where we're going to go with this, and not today, we're not going to, right? There's a difference between the Shekhinah, the divine presence that is revealed, and God's presence that is concealed. That's where we're going. But to understand that, first we need to understand the following. Before we can understand anything divine, we have to understand it in ourselves. After all, we're created from the divine, an image, reflection of the divine, a piece of the divine. So if we understand ourselves, then we'll understand the divine. And as it says in Job, from my own flesh, I can perceive godliness. In other words, if I can understand the human soul that pervades all 248 organs of the body, right, from foot to toe, right? The soul is everywhere. However, that being said, the principal place of the soul is in the brain. From the brain, it's diffused to the rest of the organs of the body. And each organ getting what it needs from the soul to give it its unique functionality. The eye to see, the ear to hear, the mouth to speak, the feet to walk. So we can clearly see how the brain, which is the only conscious part of the individual, that all of it occurs within the brain, and then is from there goes to the 248 limbs of the body, organs and limbs of the body, to give it its life force. Right? Now, the fact that from my soul comes the power for me to see and hear and everything else, what does that mean? Does it mean that the soul is made up of 248 components and therefore vests itself in 248 components of the physical body? So vests itself in the, again, in the eye to see, in the ear to hear, and so on. Says the Alter Rebbe, no. The soul is divested of any kind of uh, compound. The essence of the soul is simplistic whole oneness, emerging from the core essence of the soul is an element of the soul, right? That is, 613 different kind of parts, if you will. But that's what emerges from the soul. The soul itself, the essence of the soul, right? There is no distinction on how it's present, be it the brain, the right arm, the left toenail, thumb, toenail. No difference. It's all essentially they're the same in the core essence of the soul. The main place of where it's first revealed is in the brain, something that we're going to get more into. Right? But where does the functionality of the brain express itself is in the limbs giving it its unique quality. That's the metaphor, and we have more to go on that we need to appreciate and understand of this. Any questions? Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I'm writing French. If, all right. So this is the beginning of the metaphor. We're going to unpack the metaphor to understand. It's also good to understand ourselves. In the meantime, that's what we did. God bless you. Thank you. Okay, I don't see any questions. Yeah, no question. As a reason, okay, we'll have to wait for the next class so we can dive more into. Right. So just to recap, we have the core essence of the soul that is simplistic and whole, that isn't compartmentalized. We have the first part of the soul that is in the brain, and from there it diffuses and brings functionality and unique and different functionality to all elements of the body and gives the functionality of the eye to hear and the ear to hear and the eye to see rather, the ear to hear. Hope we got that right. All right. Folks, to be continued. Thank you. Rambam coming up in about 10 minutes or